Hello, it's 9 p.m. in RTD. It's time to English New Edition for tonight headlines. We have After the South, Prime Minister continues his tour in the north of the country. Egypt defeats Cameroon and joins Senegal in the final. Welcome to our newsroom. Following the example of the other regions of the national territory, the ministerial delegation headed by the number two of the Republic of Djibouti, His Excellency Abdulkader Kamil Mohammed, made a course yesterday to Obok, a historic city, as part of its tour to inquire about the effectiveness of the deconcentrated services and also discuss immediately with the inhabitants of the chief town of Obok and the notables. Prime Minister and his delegation were welcomed with great pomp by the local authorities and the population of Hayu mobilized on this occasion. The aims of this tower in the interior region is to set up a platform likely to promote the actions of the state by bringing the administration closer to the citizens as well as the participation of the economic actors in the development of the communities and to allow the participation of the civil society in the management of the public thing. Prime Minister and his delegation had a fruitful meeting focused on the effectiveness of the deconcentrated services and also on the role played by those in charge of these services in the improving the living conditions of the population by strengthening public services. In their intervention, the peoples of Obok have expressed their satisfaction with the numerous achievements of the regional authorities in satisfying and fulfilling the expectations and aspirations of the people of Obok. Today, it is clear to the historical region of Obok has progressed in a spectacular ways and remains the perfect example of the national progress desired by the head of state. The Prime Minister and his delegation, together with the regional authorities, then proceeded to the launching of the plastic recycling unit in Obok. Recall that Obok, in implementing these programs of unit of recycling plastic, aims to reduce environmental pollutions by plastics while increasing the number of jobs in the sectors of plastic recycling, as well as changing the attitude and behavior of communities towards plastic waste for more prosperous Hayu. Is also aims to strengthen a symbiotic relationship between communities and the ecosystems for sustainability by demystifying the general concept of waste. Let us recall that in addition to the prefectural and regional authorities, this event saw the participation of ADDS and International Organization for Migration representative as well as a dense crowd composed of the inhabitants of this historic city, but also came in large numbers from the Markazi camp of Yemen refugee. Today, it is clear to the historic region of Obok has made a spectacular progress and remains the perfect example of a national progress wanted by the President Ismail Omar Guelleh and for the countries in the framework of his decentralization policy. Following this place has the inauguration of a stone road cut 750-meter long in the city centers of the chief town of Obok. Recall that the construction, rehabilitation, and maintenance of road are part of the mission is entrusted to the government to facilitate the daily lives of residents by improving the living environment of the people of Obok in a satisfactory state. In addition, it is worth recalling that all this beautiful world then visited under the steps of the Director of Social Development of ADDS and exhibitions of a table relating the many projects focused particularly in the areas of promoting market, gardening, water supplies, rehabilitation of health structure, boreholes, underground tanks, social nets, as well as community development trainings of citizens in rural areas. The fight against youth unemployment. In addition to this major achievement, the Director of Social Development, ADDS, and told the members of the delegation and the prefectural and regional authorities so many other projects that wishes to undertake driving by the will to always accompany the government in its social, economic, and cultural momentum, especially in the fight against thirst and poverty. ADDS has spared no effort to notably bring its stones to the buildings of the rehabilitation of health structures both in the chief town of Obok, but also in the remote and peripheral areas. The Minister of Social Affairs Solidarity, Ulufa Ismail Abdo, said for her part in his speech, welcomed the regional development project that represents this initiative to launch the construction of a future leisure park. On the other hand, the minister did not fail to emphasize the importance of these towers of the Prime Minister with a strong ministerial delegation and representatives of the people who are no one others than the members of parliament of the regions. The Prime Minister, His Excellency Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, emphasized that the impact and the positive fallout that will have these programs of construction of a laser park of project born of an ardent desires of the prefect of the region who proceeding to the ceremony of laying stones for the construction of a park of complex laser of activities reveals to give a city's splendor and a community reasons to live. He also praised the effort and achievement of the IDDS, which is worked night and day for the socio-economic development of the interior regions in the general and the regions of Obok in particular. He then emphasized the purpose of his towers, which in his eyes is of paramount importance to promote the government's policy in its drives to raise awareness of collective participation in public affairs. The Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Robli Abdullah, presided over a ceremony to receive medical materials and equipment financed by the Islamic Development Bank. These new acquisitions are made up of hospital beds, diagnostic equipment, instrument, medical imaging equipment, scopes, and hospital furniture, and are intended for the 6 polyclinics such as Farahat Polyclinics, Ahmed Maki Polyclinics in Ingala, 15 polyclinics in Warabale, and Dr. Guled Polyclinics in Pika 12, and that of Al-Hiba and Hayablay. It is therefore a question of reinforcing the capacity of reception and increasing the quality of care through the enhancement of technical platforms at the level of all polyclinics in the framework of the implementation of the strategy of decongestions of a large hospital. Indeed, these new orientations will make it possible to improve the offer of cares of the polyclinics in adequacy with the prospect of the setting in services the card of health insurance at the level of these medical structures of second level. The summit of the head of state and government of African countries opens tomorrow in Addis Ababa and will last 2 days. The agenda of this summit, which is taking place after 2 years of absence because of the COVID-19 pandemic, will focus on the importance issue of the African continent, namely development, the fight against poverty, the African response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the major issue of African current affairs, as well as the institutional reforms of the African Union. The African head of state and government will meet at the headquarters of the African Union for the 35th summit. The Republic of Djibouti will be represented by a high-level delegation led by the President of the Republic, Ismail Omar Guelleh, The work of the summit has already begun at the level of experts and heads of diplomacy of African countries for 2 days to prepare the summit. The Minister of Foreign Affairs Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Djibouti's ambassador to Ethiopia Abdi Mahmoud Abe, and the senior Djiboutian diplomat, including the point of MIAP, Mr. Musa focal point of the MIAP of Musa Mohammed Umar, have participated in the work. The point on the preparations of the summit of the African Union and the result of the work of the executive councils of African Union with the ambassador of Djibouti in Ethiopia, Mr. Abdi Mahmoud Abe. The movement of the United and Indivisible Youth, in collaboration with the Ministry of Youth and Culture, organized a 6 awareness campaign for young people on digital citizenship this morning at the CDC of Wahle Daba neighborhoods to sensitize young people of the Wahle Daba neighborhoods against the good and bad uses of social networks. The objective of this initiative is to sensitize the youth to the promotion of civic values and respect of the principles of ethics and responsibility on social networks. Our message to the use of these neighborhoods was social networks are just tools. It is up to each of you to use them in the way that suits you best while cultivating a spirit of tolerance and social networks. You should use them to develop your skills, to publish your file activities, to do research, to communicate, and not to connect this to sites that do not allow to benefit from them. We urge them to act responsibly, promote the values of citizenship and development on social networks. At the end of the sensitization to the responsible of the youth movement, very motivated by the fruitful exchanges, did not miss for what they qualified as initiative of a preventive act of patriotism and tolerance. Mr. Muhammad Ali Abdu towards to use the messages of hindsight and responsibility that we transmitted them. It is in its pursuit of its actions for the benefit of the civil society. The Djiboutian Coast Guard welcomed in the day of February 2020 in collaboration with the National Agency for Disabled Persons, Young Children with Special Needs for a sea trip. More than 40 young children embarked on board the patrol boat of the Djiboutian Coast Guard for a summer trip to Mucha Island, accompanied by the staff of the Djiboutian Coast Guard. They enjoyed a day placed under the sign of relaxations in the idyllic scenes of the mangrove beach. Fun activities and swimming were organized, and the young children were able to take full advantages of the exceptional environment of this beach, supervised by the professionals of the Coast Guard, who have done everything possible to make this day a memorable occasion. For the international scene carried by a whole people, Cameroon will not win the African Nations Cup at home after its defeat in the semi-final against Egypt after the penalty shootout. Neither teams managed to open the score during regulation times and extra times. The Egyptians relied on the talent of their number 2 goalkeepers, Abu Gabal, who stopped 3 of the 4 Cameroonian shoots on goals, while the Pharaohs sheets. Egypt will not try to win an 8th African Cup of Nations. It will face Senegal on Sunday, which is aiming for its first titles in this competition. And to close up this edition, Morocco, it is necessary to save the child Ryan, stuck in a well since Tuesday. Rescuers continue to fight against the clock on Thursday night to try to save a 5-year-old boy striking a deep well in a village in northern Morocco since Tuesday afternoon's drama that is holding the kingdoms in suspense. The rescue operation is on the ground is intensified in the evening around the well while with the bulldozers and could continue until the morning. The drilling work has reached more than 27 meters with the hope of reaching 32 meters during the next few hours before digging a horizontal breach on 3 meters between the hole and the well to recover the child, reported by the news agencies. A medical team was dispatched to the scene for the accident. And this is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.